Today we will be discussing the third module of distributed computing. These are the topics of third module: interprocess communication, its characteristic, group communication, multicast communication, remote procedure call, network virtualization, and case study. Today we will be dealing with interprocess communication and its characteristics. Here, the main term considered is middleware communication. Actually, it is a layer which acts between the operating system and the system application that allows for communication. So, the basic things that we are going to deal here is the underlying interprocess communication primitives, sockets, message passing, multicast support, overlay networks. Let us see what is meant by inter-process communication. We had seen that in a distributed computing, there will be many computers connected over a network, and every computer will be having different kind of processes running over it. So these processes should have a communication between them for the proper working. Hence, we can state inter-process communication as an activity of sharing data across multiple and commonly specialized processes using some kind of communication protocols. That means it is an activity of sharing information between the processes which takes place under some kind of communication protocols. Typically, applications using IPC, that is the application which uses inter-process communication, are categorized as client and servers. Usually the client will make a request, the client process will make a request, and the server process will service to the client. Then there are several reasons for implementing this inter-process communication. One is sharing information, next is distributing labor across system, then privilege separation. Sharing information means, for example, we can say that web servers will provide lot of information to the user through web browser. It can be a web document or a media. All this kind of communication is taking place through IPC. So web servers uses IPC to share the data. Then distributing labor across system. For example, we can consider Wikipedia, which give us a lot of information, and in that there will be links provided. So that link will contain another kind of information. So all this should have a proper communication between them. Hence, IPC is used to process the user request. Next is privilege separation. Privilege separation means some kind of software systems are separated into many layers based on the privileges. Actually, this is done to minimize the risk of attacks. Even though these layers are separated, the layers of a particular software are separated into various layers. They must have a communication with each other. Then only the proper or the desired result can be produced. So the process, each layers communicate through IPC. General characteristics of inter-process communication. When we are speaking about inter-process communication or message passing between two processes, the basic two communication primitives are send and receive. To communicate, one process must send a message and the destination process must receive the message. Then only a communication had happened between two processes. So this activity involves the communication of data from the sending process to the receiving process and may involve the synchronization of the two processes. Okay. So this communication can be of either synchronous mode of communication or asynchronous mode of communication. When we are speaking about the synchronous form of communication, both the communication primitives, that is both the send and receive, are blocking operations. Blocking operations in the sense, consider that a process has issued a send. So whenever a particular process has issued a send, that process is blocked until the corresponding receive is issued. Okay, if process A wants to send a message to process B and process A initiates or issues a send operation. So process A will be blocked until and unless the corresponding receive is issued by process B. Okay, then receive is also a blocked operation in synchronous mode. That means whenever a receive is issued by a process, it is blocked until the message arrives. The same example, if process A wants to send a message to process B and consider that process B has issued a receive. Then process B is blocked until the message arrives. Then in the case of asynchronous communication, the use of send operation is non-blocking. That means if a process A wants to send a message to any other process, it can put that message in the buffer, sending outgoing buffer. After that, the outgoing buffer, whenever the communication channel is free, the outgoing buffer will put it into the channel and will transmit it. But at that time, the sending process is not blocked. After keeping the message in the buffer, process is free, so it can work with other, it can proceed in parallel with the sending process. Then the receive operation, this can have a blocking and a non-blocking variant. If it is a non-blocking variant, the receiving process proceeds with its program after issuing a receive operation. Next is message destination. So a message is sent from the sending process and the message must reach a particular destination. So these messages are sent to a internet address and local port pairs. That means the process which is sending a message will specify a particular internet address on which the computer resides and a local port. Local port means it is a destination within a computer that is specified as an integer. So the internet address where that particular machine resides, as well as the local port, that is the particular destination within that computer, must be mentioned. Then the processes can use multiple ports to receive messages. Any process who is aware or who knows the number of a port can send a message to it. Servers generally publicize their port numbers for use by client. Then think that if the client uses a fixed internet address to refer to a service, the client is always using a fixed internet address to refer to any kind of service, then one criteria or condition is that that service must always run on the same computer for its address to remain valid. So some kind of location transparency has to be provided to avoid this. Consider that the client program refers to a service by name and uses a name server or binder to translate their names to server locations at runtime. So the only thing is this name, server name, has to be translated into the server locations at runtime. So some kind of name server or binder has to be used. Next is reliability. Reliability is defined in two terms, either validity and integrity. Validity means if a message is sent from a source to destination, that particular message must receive the destination without much loss of packets or without much message drop. That message must reach the destination. Then only we can say that that message is valid. Then otherwise it is invalid. Then comes integrity. Integrity means ensuring that whatever message is sent by the sender has reached the receiver. That means if a particular process A sends a particular message, the same message should be received by the receiver. There should not have any corruptions or any duplications. If these two things are ensured, that is validity and integrity, we can say that reliability in communication is achieved. Next is ordering. Ordering means consider that process A has sent some messages. These messages must be received by the receiving process in the same order in which A sends. The order should not be changed. If, for example, if a mail is sending and one person sends a mail and two persons are replying, and the third person can also see that mail, but the order of the that message should be in the correct order. That means the first mail should be received, then only the replies should be received. Like that, a correct ordering should takes place. Otherwise the desired result or it may result in some uncorrupted form. Next is socket. Actually, in the case of a client server program, the client and server are communicating using a sockets. So this is considered as an endpoint of a two-way communication. Every server will create a server socket and client will have a client socket. So client will pass two parameters. One is the internet address as well as the port address, and will send a request to the server. Server will be listening on this particular port and will accept the client connection. When the client connection is accepted, server will create another port and bind it to the client, and through this particular communication port or through this socket they will be communicating the data. Then each computer can have a large number of possible port numbers for use by local process for receiving messages. Then each socket is should associate with a particular protocol, communication protocol, either UDP or TCP protocol. Next is UDP datagram communication. In the case of a UDP datagram communication, a datagram is sent by UDP. It will be transmitted from a sending process to a receiving process, but there will be no acknowledgement or retries. If some failure occurs, the message may not arrive. Only that thing, there will be no acknowledgement or there will be no retries. To send or receive a message, the process must first create a socket bound to an internet address of the local host and a local port. In order to send a message, a socket must be created. The socket should contain the internet address where the machine resides and a port number of that particular machine. Then server will bind its socket to a server port and client bind its socket to any local free port. These are some of the issues or challenges relating to datagram communication. One is message size. Message size in the sense the receiving process need not specify an array of bytes of a particular size in which to receive a message. The receiver side does not provide any specific size to receive the message, and if the message is too big for the array, it is truncated on arrival because that buffer cannot hold the entire message and it will be truncated. Then timeout mechanism. Consider that a process A has sent a message to process B, and process B is waiting for that message, but due to some kind of failures, maybe a process crash had taken place or a communication channel problem issues had taken place, that message does not receive at the receiver. So it is not a good practice that the receiver has to wait for a very long time. So a mechanism called timeout is used. If the message does not receive at the receiver within a particular time, it will be considered as a failure. Next is blocking. Blocking means sockets normally provide non-blocking sends and blocking receives for datagram communication. Then the method receive block until a datagram is received unless a timeout has been set on the socket. Receive from any. In the case of sending and receiving, receive method actually does not specify about the origin for messages, from where that messages comes from. Instead, it will have an invocation of receive, get a message address to its socket from any origin. That means get the address to its socket from any origin. Then this receive method returns the internet address and local port of the sender, so that the recipient can check where the message came from. These are failure model for UDP datagram. The two kind of failures are omission failures and ordering. Omission failure means either it can happen to the process or to the communication channel. Process can have sometimes a crash and it was not able to perform the intended steps, so some kind of failures will happen to the process. And in the case of a communication channel, maybe some errors had taken place, so that some kind of checksum operations will be applied and that packet will be dropped or rejected. So these can be considered as omission failures, and the basic two communication channel omission failures are send omission and receive omission failure. Ordering means messages can sometimes be delivered out of the center order. So this is also a failure model of UDP datagram. And some of the uses of UDP are uh, it is mainly used in domain name systems, also voice over IPs. These are the basic two uses of UDP. Thank you.